This is my grammar school years here.
Minoru Imamura was born in a farming community just south of Los Angeles in 1926. It's where his immigrant parents had settled after leaving Japan in search of a better life. And while Imamura, who likes to be called Min, grew up during the Great Depression, he led what sounds very much like an all-American life.
I had a dog, and I had a shotgun, and went rabbit hunting, and I think it was the nicest time of life for me.
But the idyllic youth that Min remembers came to a very sudden end in his mid-teens. On December 7, 1941, Minoru Imamura was a high school sophomore and a few weeks shy of turning 16. 2 months later, President Roosevelt issued an executive order calling for all Japanese Americans to be relocated to internment camps.
My dad worked so hard. He put his energy in his farming, and he decided to buy 50 acres. He lost everything.
A new book of photographs reveals some never-before-published images of the internment. It's called Un-American and published by Chicago's City File Press. Michael Williams is the book's co-writer, who says a photograph he saw years ago sparked the project.
It was of a Japanese-American shopkeeper in Oakland, California, and he was in the process of being incarcerated, and he put a banner on the front of his business that said, "I am an American." And it was that single image that always stuck in my head.
That photograph was taken by the noted photographer Dorothea Lange. Lange, along with other noted photographers, including Ansel Adams, were commissioned by the U.S. government to chronicle the internment of Japanese Americans, and those photos were carefully controlled by the government.
If newspapers wanted a picture, they would supply a picture. Generally, they would be pictures that showed positive aspects of life in the camps. They did not document the dust storms, the extreme cold, the uninsulated conditions in which people were living. They did not show the horse stalls that entire families were living in.
Michael Williams says he and his co-author sifted through thousands of photographs at the National Archives, uncovering some they say are being published for the first time, and span the entire 4 years of the internment era, beginning in 1942 when families were notified and began selling off their possessions. They were transported by trucks and trains to assembly camps where they were processed. The Imamura family was later transferred to the internment camp in Granada, Colorado, one of 10 such facilities. It's where Min finished high school 2 years later, and in a supreme case of irony, he was then drafted into the Army.
There were the 2 questionnaires: if you'll be loyal to the United States, and if you are drafted, would you serve? And on the 2 question, I've answered yes, yes.
But by the time he reached Europe, the war had ended. Back home, the last of the internment camps would not close until 1946.
For here we admit a wrong.
In 1988, President Ronald Reagan signed a law granting reparations to Japanese Americans who had been interned.